Hello, I'm Kyle Apodaca, and I'll be talking about the industrial geography of the Silicon Valley. So in this presentation, I'll be talking about how the Silicon Valley came to the area it resides and how it impacts people living in and out of the area of the Silicon Valley. So I first defined the Silicon Valley as a region in the southern part of the San Francisco Bay Area, which serves as a global center for high technology, innovation, and social media. So with high technology, you'll find flying cars like this guy, space bus, and maybe a robot dog. But we find that that's not the case. The Silicon Valley area, also known as Santa Clara County, is comprised of a lot of cities, towns, and suburbs. San Jose, which is right here, is the third largest city in California and the 10th largest city in the United States. From 1960 to 2000, population grew from 200,000 to 900,000. The Silicon Valley area is home to 160,000 plus firms. Some of the early key factors to the Silicon Valley was the world's first radio station, which was built in 1909 in San Jose. Another big factor was the Moffett Airfield, which was purchased by the Navy, and it was used for early aerospace and research and development of that. Later, in the late 1930s, 1940s, William Hewlett and David Packard created the Hewlett-Packard Company, and they invented radar and artillery technology for the United States during World War II. Important factors to the Silicon Valley happened in the 1950s and 1960s after World War II, when the Cold War caused the U.S. to increase in defensive weapons. The Department of Defense looked to Lockheed Martin to make more aerospace weapons and defensive weapons, and Lockheed Martin had just moved from Los Angeles to Sunnyvale, California. Fred Terman had anticipated this. He was the dean of the Stanford Engineering College, and he decided to reconstruct the school to be more focused on military aerospace engineering. So students who graduated from Stanford with an engineering degree had a ticket into Lockheed Martin, which was an aerospace company. Another important factor is that the DoD, Department of Defense, saw that there were a lot of engineers in this area and incentivized others across the country to move to that area. So they selected this population of engineers to resettle there. Another huge important factor was William Shockley and the transistor. So William Shockley created this, the transistor, which is very, very useful to computers and a very big innovation to computer technology. Shortly after he invented it, he moved from New York, where the Bell Laboratories were, to Mountain View, California, which is in that Silicon Valley area, and created his own laboratory called the Shockley Semiconductor Laboratory. Here is where he assembled a super team of talented and young engineers to re-innovate and advance his new creation on the transistor. However, it turns out that William Shockley was a big jerk, and the young and talented engineers decided they didn't need to die with this company, they should create their own. The young talented engineers left Shockley, and he refers to them as the Traitors Hate, and they created their own firm called Fairchild, and later, eventually, some of these 8 members would then create their own companies. So as we can see here, here's Fairchild, whoop, and some of these members left. They created companies we know: Honeywell, Philips Electronics, Intel, Motorola, Raytheon. So they created this idea that you don't have to stick with an electronic company or technology company. You can spin off and pursue your own. And that is how the Silicon Valley area has over 150,000 firms, because there's a lot of young entrepreneurs that are trying to create their own technological companies. So the Silicon Valley has impacted almost everyone around the world, mainly due to the cell phones created by Apple, like these ones, and the cars created by Tesla, which are environmental friendly and can drive themselves, and the apps like Twitter, Snapchat from Silicon Valley allow us to entertain us and keep us connected with one another. The Silicon Valley is also big for its entrepreneurship. A lot of old and young entrepreneurs come to create their technological ideas, and half of the engineers that work in a technological firm in the Silicon Valley were born outside of the United States. So Silicon Valley creates this networking where everyone wants to work with each other and work together to achieve success. A negative impact of the Silicon Valley is the expensive housing that came with it. The fast change has caused homes to rise in value and in rent. A value of a home in the early 2000s was around $500,000, and in today's it's around 1.5 million. And there's nothing really fancy about the homes either. Rent has also gone up, and there's a big wage gap between those working in the technological industry and those not. So some people need to go to food banks just to get by, and those trying to become entrepreneurs have to do co-living, where they live in what's called hacker houses, and they're trying to work for a company or get their startup going. So that is the Silicon Valley and the reason why it's there. I hope you learned something, and thank you for listening.